Hey friends and fellow DMs, and welcome to part 2 of Hoard of the Dragon Queen. I hope you enjoyed my first episode, and I want to continue kind of an episodic nature of the book itself. So I'm going to try to kind of follow that, so revealing my thoughts and suggestions, as well as what happened in my game. So that's going to be the kind of the format of these videos. So continuing on, at the end of the long night, that's when Cyanrath shows up, okay? And Cyanrath is the half-dragon that wants to challenge a player character to a duel, okay? There have been a lot of thoughts on this. Some DMs don't like the fact that Cyanrath is pretty much going to win this fight, right? I mean, the character, in my point, the characters were only second level. Cyanrath is going to win this fight, essentially. But I really, and people complain about that. But I thought about it myself for my own game, and I really kind of like the idea of the combat, because essentially what I had happen was Cyanrath shows up. He has Frulam Mondath with him, as well as Resmer. And I made all three of these guys half dragons that have actual wings, okay? They're half dragons. Well, Cyanrath is a half-dragon in the book, but none of them have wings. So I made them all half-dragons that have wings, and I actually explained this a little later in the game, what happened with these guys. But anyways, I thought it'd be interesting to have them all half-dragons, like leaders of the cult. And like I said, I took out the kobolds that were just cultists and mercenaries that were witnessing this fight. So, Cyanrath gives this challenge, up to the castle, and, my warrior agreed to the fight, they would free these captives that they had. And so then the battle commenced. But I really made something of it, like the guards and, were patting him on the back, and, everybody was blessing him, for the fight. And it was really kind of a somber moment, because he figured he's probably going to get defeated by this guy, but he was willing to make the sacrifice for these people. And I really played that up. And that it wasn't the fight itself that was the great moment. It was that lead up to the fight, where picture the fight. Picture in Lord of the Rings when they're in the White City and they're going down on their horse. They're riding down the street on their horses, and people are throwing flowers and that kind of thing, because they know that these people are going to get murdered. But they're trying to bless them and encourage them, and that's exactly what happened in my game. And it was just a great moment. Actually, much better than the fight itself. Of course, he gets defeated in the fight, but he did a pretty good job. He stood up a long time, took a lot of punishment, dealt out some punishment, but in the end, he went down. But what I had happen was, one of the people that Cyanrath had captured, the woman throws herself on the player character, looks up at Cyanrath and says, you have to go through, because he's getting ready to, do this final, after the character is down, this final plunge to kill him. And she throws herself on the character, looks up, and Cyanrath, relinquishes. He doesn't, kill her and kill the character. That was a great moment too. Very emotional. So you can have a lot of fun with this. Don't just think of it as like a fight you can't win. Think of it as the emotional resonance that it's going to give your campaign and your characters. And it's going to give somebody that moment of, I probably know I'm going to die, but I'm going to sacrifice myself for these people. So that's what's important. Not the stats. The stats aren't important. The stat that he should have died or whatever. It's important that he was willing to sacrifice himself for these people. So really play that up on this. So now, then the Hoard moves off, of course. So moving on to episode 2. All right, episode 2 is where the cultists have gone to the camp, and they are, they're setting up, getting ready to move the treasure out. All right, so there could be a lot of interesting opportunities here. Also, I had someone who was a follower of Leosin and had gone to Greenest for Leosin, and then one of Leosin's friends says, well, Leosin's been captured, kind of like the book says, like Leosin's been captured, in this camp and all this kind of thing. And he gives us as much information as he knows. So, they want to go back and try to get as much treasure they can anyway back for the town. So they head out. So on the way there, they find a group of stragglers, kind of like in the book. They find a group of stragglers, and I just had these guys be mercenaries, no kobolds. They're just mercenaries, and they're just kind of drinking and, chatting, and they're taking their time. They're not rushing to the camp, but then they've got their wagons loaded with stuff. And they stole some food also, so they're having like a little picnic, right? Well, they also stole this little girl from the town I named her Lily. And she's not in the book, but I thought she'd be interesting because they're kind of fighting about whose little slave this girl's going to be. She's going to be my slave. No, mine. And they're just jerks. The general jerk kind of thing. So the player characters are they catch these people unaware. They're spying on them. They're watching what they're doing, and they just go down and they like decimate these guys. And because I just made them the biggest assholes ever. But anyways, they decimate these guys. It's really, really fun fight, really satisfying. And one guy tries to run away, and the warrior smacks him down, doesn't kill him, but kind of has his foot on him, and he's like smashing him into the mud, and his face is all like, in the mud. And the little girl, when the players attacked, she actually ran under the wagon, for cover. And then when the warrior does that to the one guy that was trying to get away, the little girl Lily runs out, grabs a stick, and is just smacking the ass of this guy and saying, "You bad man, blah 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 blah." You take that and all this, and just you're so bad, and just all this cursing at him. It was just a lot of fun that she's just chiding this warrior, while our warrior's like standing on his neck, pushing him into the ground. She's just beating his ass raw with his stick. And it was just it was a fun role-playing moment. So anyways, they befriend this little girl, but this gave them another kind of dilemma because they're like, oh, we got to take this girl back. But the problem is, I'm like, well, if you do, who knows what you're going to miss at the camp, or Leosin may not last that long. Do you want to chance that? And these choices are what make the game so fun, right? The choices of, okay, are we going to take this little girl into danger? She's a brave little girl, but she's still a little girl. Are we going to take this little girl into danger with us because we can't go back? And they're like, well, we could leave her here or something like that. Well, I'm like, well, there are a lot of wild beasts wandering around. Do you really want her out here by herself? So it was kind of either, oh, do we take her back and chance that either they're gone or that Leosin dies? Or do we take her with us and chance that she gets killed? She could get killed. This is super dangerous with the work they're doing. So that's an interesting challenge and an interesting moral, dilemma that they had to go across. So they decide to take her with her. They better, beat it to the camp. So they've got this wagon now, and they've got, they take some of the stuff from the bandits and stuff and kind of disguise themselves a bit. And so they totally get past. One of the characters had infiltrated her background was she had infiltrated the cult somewhat, and so they easily get past the guards that are in the book. They have some watchtowers and stuff, and they easily get past those. The guards think they're just stragglers just coming into the camp, and there's all kinds of mercenaries in the camp. They don't know everybody in the camp, right? These guards don't know everybody in the camp, so it's really pretty easy if you just act like if you know that you should be there, they're not even really going to bother you. So they easily get in the camp. They're looking around. It's a pretty large camp. And in camp things are going on. Kind of describe the flavor of it. Because once these people settle down, they're going to be having dinner and talking about their woman and just whatever not necessarily stuff about the cult. But just their own lives, right? So just give that a lot of flavor. So they find out where Leosin is being held, and that Resmer has been like torturing him. So that's not good. They also see the cave that will feature in episode 3. Now the book doesn't want you to go in the cavern yet, and you could, but my thing was Leosin. They wanted to get Leosin away, so they didn't really try to even go in the cave because the mission was trying to free Leosin really, and maybe get some back for some treasure if they could. So they end up sneaking in, freeing Leosin, talking to him, getting him to come with them, and they do get some treasure, and they have a couple close calls with some of the guards and stuff. But more fun role playing stuff. Not you don't have to throw dice for everything. Don't throw dice for everything. Just let them just kind of talk their way through. And you can chuck a few dice, and so they think you're checking dice, but you don't necessarily have to check dice. If they give a plausible explanation, just go with it. Don't depend on dice for everything. So just have fun with it, because the fun is, we going to get discovered? You know what I'm saying? So you might have them make a few dice rolls, but don't depend on dice rolls for this. Just make them role play it, and just if they have plausible, if they seem to talk their way out of it, let them talk their way out of it. No harm. So they get out of the camp. They get Leosin back to Greenest, and this was interesting. I did a few things with Leosin because he is a scholar and he's been following this cult for a long time, and I really wanted to express how dangerous that the cult is. So basically, Leosin is telling them. He tells them that they're trying to raise Tiamat. So this is not something they find out way in the future or something. They find it out right now that the cult is trying to raise Tiamat. And I expressed to them how much of a world-changing or ending or apocalypse event this would be to the world. This is essentially their apocalypse. So if they don't stop this, right, their world is going to end, literally going to end. It's not going to be the same. So this is a great way that this makes this. I think it does a couple things. It makes the story super heroic because they're trying to save the world. It also makes the group, who is very disparate and different alignments and different backgrounds, kind of band together in this ragtag group of, okay, it's all or nothing. We got to stop this or our world is going to end. Right? Whether you're good or evil, whatever your belief. We got to stop this. Okay. So then I did another cool thing too, explaining why they took the dragon eggs, and a little thing that I thought was really creepy to add to the adventure. And the players, when I was telling them this, they were just like, oh God, because it is a really creepy idea. And I found this idea online. I don't remember who it was from, but I thought the idea was excellent and I stole it. Always, don't be afraid to do that. Go online and steal ideas. So what the cult stole the dragon eggs, okay? Part of it was because they want to use the eggs to create essentially super beings or, half dragons. So what I said was that the eggs could be used to create half dragons and other things. And here's how it works. Okay, so the eggs, dragon eggs, are full of like a swarm of mosquito-like larvae, okay? And what they do is the larvae eat each other, okay? Until eventually there's only one larvae left. And that becomes the embryo of the dragon that hatches from the egg, okay? So it's like a test for survival inside the egg. But the cult has learned through like their dark magic that they can kind of bore into an egg, pull out these larvae, and it's called taking the worm. And they swallow the worm, and the worm kind of bores into their brain, almost like the Khan thing, from Wrath of Khan. It kind of bores into their brain, and then it will start to transform them. Some people turn into what's called dragon dogs, and they're just barely above animal intelligence, but they're dragon-like. They're small dragon-like creatures, not like kobolds, but they're called dragon dogs. Then the next level is drakes. So people might turn into drakes. They have a little more intelligence, and they're stronger, but they're not human intelligence, right? And the strongest of the strong turn into half dragons. So that's where the half dragons actually come from. The taking of the worm. If you're strong enough, and that's why the cultists will do it, if you're strong enough and you survive the process, you will become a half dragon and like exalted by the cult. So I thought this was all really a cool idea. And so, Cyanrath, Mondath, or, Resmer and Mondath are all like all took the worm and became half dragons. And I just thought that was a really cool idea. And the players just like, ugh, because it's kind of a creepy cool idea, and I really liked it. So Leeson told them about all this and stuff, and that's why they had captured the dragon eggs. So there we go. That kind of ended that session. So we'll stop here, and then we'll come back for episode 3 and talk more about the Hoard of the Dragon Queen in my game. Hope you enjoyed this talk.